Hello, my name is Sam, my pronouns are they, them, and welcome back to my office. Today, we will be discussing my chaotic and unmanageable August wrap-up and going into my September hopefuls. I have big lofty goals for September, and do I think that I can really keep them? Probably not, but am I going to try my hardest? Absolutely. So, with that, let us crack on into it and get started with the August wrap-up. So, apologies in advance if you hear any squeaking or rustling. That would be my dog Bug losing her mind with her toys. And we're just gonna accept it because she's having a great time. And we want to also have a great time over here. So, August was a really weird one for me because I have, like, really bad seasonal depression in the summer. I have a really hard time with it. So I did not do, like, nearly any physical reading. I did almost all audiobooks. So it was okay. It could have been a lot better, though, honestly speaking. Let's start with my 3-star books for the wrap-up. So I had 3 3-star books, and I'm going to say that they are 3 stars. 2 of them are 3 stars because of me, because I'm the problem. And one of them is 3 stars just because I knew it was going to be, and I still read it anyway. So really, I'm the problem for all of them. So the first one was Entranced by the Basilisks by Lillian Lark. This is like the 3rd book in her monster romance series. And it's about this director of a library who does magical and non-magical things. He is a basilisk, and his lover of 10 years gives him a book that he needs to be restored. So he gives it to his restoration specialist, and that invokes a notice from the basilisk god, and she is changed into the chosen. Ultimately that means that she has like Medusa snakes for hair and can turn people to stone. And after she accidentally turns her mother to stone, she panics and they have her move in with the 2 of them. It is shenanigans all the way around. It was fine. It was filthy. It was filthy. And it's like a poly romance. You love a good poly romance, but I knew it was going to be 3 stars. I gave the other book that I read in this series 3 stars. I keep picking up these monster romances by Lillian Lark and Sam Costa because it's like static in my brain. It's just like I don't have to think about it. It's something like satisfying to consume, but no thoughts are in my head when I'm reading these books. So I knew that was going to be the case. It was fine. The second book that I gave 3 stars was Woman Eating by Claire Kohda. This book was 3 stars because I don't read synopsises. So I picked this up off a list of women getting revenge, women being violent, because you gotta love that shit. And I thought that it was like a cannibal story, which it's not. It's a vampire story. So we're following the main character as she moves out of her mother's house finally. They are both vampires. The mother was a vampire of Asian descent. I don't remember. It might have been Malaysian. It's been almost a month, so I don't exactly remember. Who was turned into a vampire by who is implied a colonizer, and then she ends up getting pregnant and gives birth to a child who is like dying. So she turns the child into a vampire, and we're following that child as she graduates university and goes out into the world of theater, and tries to figure out how to be a vampire on her own because her mother's like going crazy. I liked a lot of aspects about it. It had some really interesting, like, relationships throughout it. If you know me, I don't really like vampires. I've never really liked vampires. It's not my thing. And I never really give vampire books, like, very good ratings. I just don't. And that's okay. So it was fine. I enjoyed the writing style a lot, and I would read something by this author again if it were not about vampires, honestly. Speaking of authors that I would read things by again if it weren't this book, the last 3-star that I gave out this month was A Tempest of Tea by Hasfa Faizal. I grabbed this book off a recommendation of someone that I really enjoy off TikTok, someone that we usually have pretty similar taste, and I usually vibe with. So I just kind of took it and ran, and I shouldn't have, because it's about a heist, and I don't like heist stories. So basically we are following the main character of this book. She was someone who, her parents and her entire like life, family, friends, everyone were murdered by colonizers, and they were able to get her out, and she makes it onto like colonizer land and has to try to figure out how to survive for herself. So we're seeing her as a like late teenager surviving for herself. She has created a tea house that doubles as a blood house at night, and something that is like the kind of governing body of this world is coming for her tea house, and she just will not have that. So a bunch of people end up teaming up to do like a heist to get this very particular ledger and a try to take down this big governing body. And we just kind of go from there. It was really good. I really liked the writing style. It took me a little while to get into the characters, but I ended up actually really enjoying them. But the story itself, it just wasn't, for me, it wasn't something that I really enjoyed, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I am very interested in picking up other books by this author, and honestly, I'm tempted to pick up the second book to Tempest of Tea because of the ending, the way that the author ended it, and it was really nice because I listened to the audiobook of this. It went into an interview with the author, and like by her husband at the end, and one of his questions was like, why do you like to cause your readers so much pain? And she just laughed, and I was like, wow, what a mood. Other than that, I have one 3.5 star, and that is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I have been wanting to pick this up since Riley picked it up like years ago and talks about it all the time. And my library finally got an audiobook of it, and I was like, okay, bet, I'll pick it up. It's like super, super slow burn. This teenager tries to rent out his dad's garage apartment, expecting his dad to be away for work for a couple weeks, and he's just looking to get a little extra cash for a guitar. So this woman shows up after her life has exploded. She was with someone for like 10 or 15 years who is a famous singer, and he ended everything with her. She doesn't even know what to do. So she's going back to this small town in, I believe, Colorado, to try and rebuild her life based on the hikes that her mother loved to do most, because her mother went missing while she was hiking, when she was just a kid. And, well, the dad actually does not go away for work, and he is the grumpiest of the grumpy. And the most slow burn romance I have ever read, no. Maybe? One of the most slow burn romances I have ever read ensues. And I actually really liked it. I am not someone who likes single parent tropes unless the child is of teenage age. I've learned that. I am not interested in reading anything about parenthood unless the children are like mid to late teenagers. So this really actually worked out really well for me. And I gave it a 3.5 star. I thought it was fine. I thought the main character was kind of cringy a lot of the time. And sometimes she was just a little hard to read. And that's okay. It's part of like the exaggerated grumpy sunshine trope that was in this. But it just wasn't my vibe. And then like the big conflict towards the end, I thought that the love interest and his son were being like unreasonable, and it was just a case of like communication would have fixed everything, and they chose not to communicate, and I'm like, wow, how standard. So 3.5 stars. It was totally fine. Next, we'll go on to my 4 stars. I have 3 4 stars. So let's start with the Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. This was just something that kind of showed up, and I just kind of grabbed it because it looked cute and cozy. And it was cute and cozy. I gave it a 4 stars. So we are following this woman who her aunt gives her cafe so her aunt can go and travel and retire and do what she wants to do. This woman has like an epiphany after her boss dies at work. She's like, oh my god, all I've ever been is my job as an executive assistant. She's like, I don't want that anymore. So of course, she decides to run a cafe in a small town. And this is yet again another kind of like grumpy sunshine scenario. And I thought it was good. I thought there was also like a cozy mystery element to it, which was fun and silly and goofy. But also like a little bit damn at the end. So I enjoyed the characters. I thought they were fun. I enjoyed this book in the way that I enjoy a Jenny Colgan book. It's like, oh yeah, I had a great time with it, and like it gets a really good rating from me, but there wasn't like substance to it. Like I don't really know what to talk to you about it, honestly speaking. Yeah, so I don't really know, like I don't have anything that I want to talk to you about it, but like I did actually really have a good time while I was reading it. My next 4 stars was Bookshops and Bonedust by Travis Baldree. I think I might have liked this one more than Legends and Lattes, honestly, but only like a little bit. So we're following Viv as she gets injured while she's doing her thing, fighting, and they leave her in this town to recover while they go and finish up a task, or at least try to. And she ends up finding this little, I think it's like a mouse person at a bookshop, and she ends up like ruining and falling through a board in front of the shop, and then she becomes determined to fix it because it's just like this crusty dusty old bookshop, and this little like mouse person is just so filthy, like potty mouth to an extreme, and you gotta love it. Loud, fun, boisterous, potty mouth, love it. And it honestly becomes an adventure of like fixing up the bookshop together, and then the actual conflict, because this one actually has like a conflict, which I really kind of enjoyed. The big conflict was the creature that they were all trying to fight in the original battle that Viv got injured in, ends up coming back to the town, and Viv ends up having to fight her, and pretty much does it like all herself, just with her and her little friends, not a band of, I don't remember what they're called. For some reason I'm thinking either marauders or hooligans, so neither of those are right. And I enjoyed the dynamics in this more than anything else, honestly. The relationships in this were truly just fantastic, and I had such a good time with it. If you're thinking about whether you should pick it up, you really should. It's totally 1000% worth it, and I had a great time with it. And my final 4 star was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Foley, I believe. I forget the author's name right now, but you know. And I just loved every second of this. Oh my god. I just loved every second of this. The romance on this was just everything to me, and the adventure was fun, and like I don't even know really how to talk about this book other than I just had such a great time with it, like very genuinely just a great happy time with it. And the romance, my favorite dynamics in the entire world. I love them. If you read the first book in this series or duology or whatever it's going to be, you should pick up the second one. Definitely. It's really good. I think it's better than the first one, honestly speaking. Okay, now let's do my one 4.5, and then I actually have 2 5-stars to talk about. My 4.5 was Slewfoot by Brom. I have been putting off reading this book for so long, and I am obsessed with it. It was so good, and I could never give it justice. But if you are interested in picking up like a book set in around the time when the Salem witch trials were happening, and like, oh my god, I don't even know how to, I don't know how to describe this book properly, so like give it the best chance for you to pick it up. So I'm just going to say, if you want something witchy, this was impeccably written, impeccably organized. The characters were to die for. I loved every single second of this. Honestly, I feel like the only reason I gave it a 4.5 star is because I listened to it in the audiobook, and if I were to read it physically, I feel like I probably would have digested it a little bit better, and I believe that there are like pictures and things inside the book, so I feel like that probably would have boosted it to a 5-star, and I will eventually read it physically. So my rating will probably change later on, but for now it's a 4.5. Now, let's do, I think this is like the second Katee Roberts book that I've ever read that I've given 5 stars, and I have read over 20 of her books so far. So I read Dark Restraint by Katee Roberts, and this was in, I forget what it's actually called, but it's the Neon God series, and this one was just mine. I loved it. It was starring Ariadne and the Minotaur, and it's like a fake marriage and like possessive, like you're mine vibes, and I just ate it up. It was only, I think, like the second or the third, I think it was the third book in the series that was monogamous, and I really enjoyed that. Nothing against poly romance. I'm not a poly person, and I read a lot of poly romance, and I enjoy a lot of them, but there's just something about the level of possessive and protectiveness that is in, like, Dark Restraint and Electric Idol that is just, it's just for me. I just eat it right up. But I just loved it. I was obsessed with it, and I feel like the last couple books in the series have not been my favorite. I own most of them, but there was one that I actually did not buy because I didn't like it that much, and I don't remember what it was. But like, no, I feel like Wicked Beauty, Radiant Sin, and the one after that like weren't really my vibe, and I was really intrigued by Midnight Ruin, and I thought it was interesting what Katee Roberts did with it. But Dark Restraint, that one's for me. I have to get a physical copy of that, definitely, because I didn't buy one because I was afraid that I was going to be unhappy with it, and then I'm obsessed. Obsessed. And then my final 5-star book of the month of August, my on and only physical read, I had an e-arc for Compound Fracture. I was obsessed with it. So this is an autistic trans Appalachian YA horror, and it was so good. Oh, it was so good. If you want to hear more about it, and you want to hear more details about it, I have a spoiler-free review up that's been up for a couple weeks now to give you a better understanding of why you might really love this book, because I am obsessed with it, and I already went out and bought my physical copy because it came out on the 3rd. So it was so good. I'm obsessed with it. With that, let's get into my September TBR, which was greatly populated by, I believe, I Read Black Books. I'm going to link her TikTok down below because she posted a TikTok that had like a list of a ton of black horror that you should be picking up that is not like shown enough on Book Talk, and I added every single one that I could find from my local libraries to this TBR. So she really populated like half of this TBR, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. So let's start with the books that she actually gave me. So I'm honestly not really going to give you a ton of information on a lot of these. Because I don't have a ton of information on a lot of these, they're just things that I am someone who just likes to pick stuff up. Like, I don't read synopsises before I pick things up. So this is kind of going to be like a little bit rapid fire. So I got a e-copy of Camp Lanier, which looks creepy as all hell. And then I actually grabbed a physical copy of The Good House by Tananarive Due, which is a classic haunted house story, I think, which I'm super into haunted house stories. So I'm super interested in this, as I believe this was also published in like the early 2000s, which I haven't read an early 2000s book in so long, so I'm so excited for that. Next, we have Hide and Seeker by, I believe, Daka Hermon. This is YA. I have it as an audiobook. I've heard it's really creepy, so it's about like these kids who are playing like hide and seek, but it's like not like a game, but it's like some dark creature is like playing it with them and trying to kill them. So that one's a YA, but I heard that it's like not YA level creepy. It's like actually creepy. And then we have Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark, which I don't know how I haven't read this yet, honestly speaking. But I have an e-arc for another one of his books, so I thought that I would pick this one up first to make sure that I'm really into his writing style, because I think the audiobook's only like 5 hours. And then we have Hoodoo by Ronald L. Smith. This is a YA, and I can tell you a little bit more about this one because I'm actually already halfway through it. I got it as an audiobook, and it's about this little boy called Hoodoo. This is in the time like where segregation was like a really severe thing, and I believe this is set in the South. I can't tell you exactly where in the South, honestly, but he starts seeing visions of like this dude popping up and being like, I've come to collect for your daddy or something like that. And he keeps talking about like the one who started it was like Madrigal. And ultimately, from what I have about it now, is Hoodoo, his father died before he was even born. He is watched after by his grandma, and he has the fate of everyone he loves in his hands. He has to deal with something regarding the crossroads, something that his daddy did, and now he's got to get the spirit of his father out of the crossroads and save them all. It's so cute. It's so cute so far. And like, yeah, it's creepy, but it's also so cute, and it's also kind of nice as a northerner because there are certain things that they talk about and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then he inserts himself and he's like, oh, that's what this is if you didn't know. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I did not know. I'm really enjoying Hoodoo, honestly speaking. And the last recommendation I got from her is When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen, which I believe is about a woman who has to go to a wedding on a plantation. I believe. And for some reason the cover like really kind of freaks me out more than any of the other ones. So I'm super excited for that one. I did get that one as an audiobook too. Other than that, we have some more books to get through. Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. I still have the e-arc of this. I really need to get it done. I really, really want to read it. I believe it's autistic forest horror, and I follow the author on Instagram, and they are such a vibe. So, super interested in this. Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I ended up starting the audiobook last month with some of my remaining Spotify credits, and I loved it so much that I ordered a copy off Pango Books. So I'm like already halfway through it from last month, but I think I'm going to switch over to reading this physically because I'm obsessed with it. And I knew I was going to be obsessed with it because ocean horror. I love ocean horror. I still want to get through The White Guy Dies First, 13 Scary Stories of Fear and Power. I know that there's one author in here that I really like, so I still kind of want to pick that up, but and becoming less and less interested in it as the days move on, and that's probably just because they're short stories and I don't really like do anthologies more often than not. And then let's talk about the library books that I have out right now that I'm going to desperately try to get through. First one, I'm already like 100 pages in, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. This is a kind of slasher horror kind of thing. We are following this writer in Hollywood, and he is a gay man writing a story or writing a show that is supposed to have like queer joy ending, and the producers are just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. And this is at a time where AI is taking over Hollywood. Creepy, really getting too close to home. And there start to be deaths from the like cartoons and the shows that people write, and creatures are coming after them in the same way. So I'm obsessed with this so far. This is so stinking good. Next, An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. I don't know anything about this other than I really enjoy S.T. Gibson writing, and this cover is just kind of gorgeous. And my local library had it immediately. So, The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. This, I know, is like the Scarlet Letter kind of scenario. Like, that's what it takes inspiration from. That's all I got about it. Saw it on the new release shelf, thought it looked interesting, just kind of drew me in. The Seventh Veil of Salome by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I'm obsessed with her writing. I was obsessed with Mexican Gothic. I saw this available at my library, decided to immediately pick it up because her writing is just lyrical and beautiful and descriptive, and I'm just obsessed with it. Finally, keeping it going with the ocean horror, From Below by Darcy Coates. I've only ever read one Darcy Coates book before. It was pretty interesting. I enjoyed the twist that she took on it, so I saw this on the new release shelf and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna grab it because ocean horror. And I'm honestly super interested in Darcy Coates. I need to look into her to make sure she's not like problematic as fuck. Because I don't really ever hear anyone talk about her, but she has so many books. So, curious as to who she is. Curious as to if she is problematic. And if she's not, I'm probably going to try to pick up every single one of her books, for the most part. And there we come to the end of our incredibly ambitious September TBR. So, chaos. I'm super excited for it, nonetheless. August was such a, like, iffy month. I really just want September to, like, hold my heart and be happy. I want this to be, like, my time for horror. Because I am in a super horror mood, so we're just gonna keep the good vibes going. And with that, that brings us to the end of our August wrap-up and our September TBR. This video came out way longer than I expected it to, and I hope to get to talk to y'all about the books that I'm reading in September a little bit more consistently than I have been recently, because I haven't been putting out a lot of book content for personal reasons, death reasons, grief reasons, physical and mental health reasons. So I'm really hoping that this month ends up being better and I can put out more book-related content for you guys as I go. So if you're interested in books and chaos and just the life of a real-life queer person in rural Maine, hi, that's me. You can stick around if you want to. Please, for the love of God, someone talk to me about books. That's all I really want, truly. Talk to me about books and talk to me about your pets. So, with that, I hope that everyone is having the most fantastic day, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye.